Hello, I'm Esther Githui-Ewart. It's Thursday, July 22nd. This is Africa 54.
Why are COVID precautionary measures being ignored in Tanzania? Spain struggles to accommodate unaccompanied minor migrants from the continent. And fans in the United States welcomed the Tokyo Olympics despite a looming COVID threat.
Tanzanian President Samia Suluhu Hassan is moving away from her predecessor's pandemic denial to urge social distancing, hand washing, and mask wearing. But as the third wave of coronavirus sweeps across Africa, the measures seem to be ignored by most of the public. Charles Kombe reports from Dar es Salaam.
Ramadan Juma is calling passengers into a bus, popularly known by locals as Dala Dala, riding in the busy city of Dar es Salaam. Neither the driver nor his passengers are wearing masks to prevent the spread of COVID-19. Juma says lack of clear instructions from Tanzanian authorities have led many to become less serious about the pandemic.
There's no emphasis. I cannot wear a mask because when I look at the people in the surrounding, there is no one who is wearing masks, no sanitizers, and also there are no water tanks here. In short, there is no shock from my fellows, so I cannot be shocked as my fellows. I take it the same.
A week ago, for just the second time in a year, Tanzanian authorities gave statistics for the number of COVID-19 patients in the country. They said from January through July 8th of this year, there were just over 400 COVID cases. Rights groups say numbers over the last year are likely much higher. The government says it is currently working on importing vaccines and calling for people to take preventive steps.
The government continues to ask every citizen to take precautions against COVID-19 by following the guidelines from our health experts, since prevention is better than cure.
It's a sharp turn from the position of the late President John Magufuli, who denied the presence of the virus in Tanzania and discouraged the use of face masks. Rights activists accuse the government of failing to provide good information and leadership in the face of the pandemic.
The government has created a big division in the society due to the fact that society has people with different understandings.
Tanzania's health minister says the country must unite against the virus.
This outbreak of disease is like a war because it claims the lives of many and weakens the economy of the country. We must join forces, and I'm expecting to see you, with your cameras, go into public buses telling people about this information, and then you say you have participated in the war.
Meanwhile, Ramadan Juma continues with his work, despite being at high risk of contracting COVID-19. Juma says serious emphasis on prevention will make people, especially his passengers, to take precautions, something that will also make him do the same. Charles Kombe for VOA News in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania.
New video has emerged of a story we first brought to you on Tuesday, the aftermath of what authorities called an attempted stabbing attack on Mali's interim president, Colonel Assimi Goïta. David Doyle has the details.
This is the moment security forces detained two men at Eid al-Adha prayers in Mali's capital Bamako after what authorities called an attempted stabbing attack on interim President Colonel Assimi Goïta. In the video, Goïta, dressed in sky blue robes, can be seen surrounded by his security detail. One of the apprehended men was thrown into the back of a military pickup truck. Speaking on state television, Goïta, who has overthrown two presidents in the past year, said he was unharmed.
Everything is fine. There is no problem. It's part of being a leader. There are always people who are unhappy. There are people who at any time can try things to destabilize, to try isolated actions. It's an isolated action. It was handled.
Prime Minister Choguel Maya, who was sitting near Goïta at the time of the attack, told state television that a man wielding a knife had approached the interim leader and attempted to stab him in the neck. The president's office did not suggest a motive and said investigations were ongoing.
That report was filed by David Doyle of Reuters. The Lagos state government is educating medical experts on better ways to deal with public health crisis, particularly the COVID-19 pandemic and the new Delta variant. According to the State Commissioner for Health, Akin Abayomi, the training will assist health practitioners in mitigating a likely third wave of the pandemic. We get more in this report from Channels TV in Nigeria.
The disturbing reality of a third wave of COVID-19 pandemic in Lagos is the reason medical practitioners are gathered here to get informed on how to tackle public health crisis in the state.
Let's appreciate her one more time, please.
It's a week-long medical education program, and the experts in the field urge their colleagues to make good use of the training.
These kind of things should actually continue. It shouldn't be yearly, one-off, like a bulldozer effect. It should be systematic, and it should be really, as the name says, is continuous.
We are planning, as we try to prepare for this third wave, to upgrade our holding bay so that we can offer advanced care for COVID-positive patients. Please, let's appreciate this man.
For the Commissioner, Lagos is at the early stage of a third wave and is working hard to detect the type of variant in the state.
We don't know the amplitude of the third wave yet. It could be a small wave, it could be an equal to the second wave, it could be a larger wave. We don't know. Time will tell, and we're collecting data on a daily basis. The Lagos State Biobank has picked up mutations that are representative of all variants that are circulating around the world. And as the numbers start to increase, we will have information that we can give to the public on which variants are predominantly circulating in Lagos State. At the moment, because the numbers are very small in terms of new cases, we are unable to give you very accurate information yet.
He also gives an update on plans to get more vaccines.
When you receive a number of mutations in a particular direction, that gives you the ability to create a classification, which now you can designate a virus that has acquired certain number of mutations, you can call it alpha. Some that have acquired another set of mutations, you can call it beta, and delta, and gamma, and zeta. And the numbers are increasing because the virus is constantly mutating. So we need to be ahead of the virus at all times, understanding what it's doing and creating the strategies that interrupt its ability to move from person to person. And over the course of the next few months, we are expecting more and more consignments in Lagos and Nigeria. And we hope that over time, we'll be able to achieve that 60% vaccination-induced herd immunity.
As the health practitioners prepare against a third wave, the state government is asking everyone to obey all the non-pharmaceutical interventions to win the battle against coronavirus.
That report was filed by Channels TV in Nigeria. Africa, battling a severe third wave of COVID-19 infections, will start to receive its first batch of 400 million doses of vaccines from Johnson & Johnson next week. According to the African Union Special Envoy on COVID, only 60 million doses have been administered among a total population of 1.3 billion so far on the continent. The vaccines will be used to immunize half of the estimated 800 million people in need of the shot. Strive Masiyiwa, who is also coordinator of the African Union Task Force on Vaccine Acquisition, told an online news conference. Around 6 million doses will be delivered to 27 nations that have paid their share through the end of August, according to Masiyiwa, with another 18 finalizing loans from the World Bank and other global lenders before they make their final payment. Large numbers of migrants are continuing to make the perilous journey across the Mediterranean Sea from Africa to the southern coast of Spain. Among them are hundreds of unaccompanied minors who, under Spanish law, are entitled to be housed in Spain until they turn 18. Elizabeth Chanef narrates this report by Alfonso Beato in Barcelona.
Many young Africans, like these in the southern Spanish city of Jerez de la Frontera, come to Europe dreaming of a better future and success. Under Spanish law, those under the age of 18 qualify for a residence permit that gives them access to education and housing. Thierno Diong is from Senegal. 2 years ago, he contacted a friend who was already in Morocco and prepared to make the journey across the Mediterranean.
We were 70 people on that boat, 9 hours to get to Malaga. A rescue boat picked us up.
He risked his life at the age of 17 and on arrival was admitted to a center for minors. When he turned 18, the authorities released him to the streets and he was on his own.
I went with a Senegalese walking in the street and then talking to him. He said, "Okay, you can come with me. There's an abandoned house and you can sleep there."
Aid organizations like the Dimbali Network help these young migrants by offering training and support with the paperwork to legalize their status.
The chances that this young man or woman can work in the agricultural sector or the hotel industry are minimal, because obviously, if they have not processed their papers, if they have not received job training as minors, if they have not learned the language, the chances that they will not be able to enter the workforce or society and will fail, well, those chances are very great.
Spain's right-wing Vox party has launched media campaigns rallying public support against programs to accept and integrate the unaccompanied minors, often using crime statistics in their arguments against public spending on migrants. Instead, party supporters call for assistance to be delivered in a way that discourages them from coming in the first place.
They would have to be in their countries of origin, and funding resources should be allocated to help them there.
Media campaigns in Spain rally to keep the young migrants out. Back in their home countries, media plays a big role in influencing young people to come. Senegalese migrant Lamine Sarr says the images that drew him were far from the reality he lived when he arrived here.
In the films the Europeans make, they do not show the images of people sleeping on the streets. When they make the films, they show expensive cars, luxury buildings, the beautiful life.
For many migrants, this new life is far from a dream come true. There are no luxuries here and no expensive cars, but they send messages home saying they are doing well because some say they do not want to worry their families, and they also do not want to admit failure. For Alfonso Beato in Barcelona, Elizabeth Cherneff, VOA News.
Local authorities say more than 200 migrants crossed into Spain's North African enclave of Melilla early Thursday, climbing the high fence that separates it from Morocco. More than 300 migrants attempted to scale the 6-meter fence using hooks. The 238 who made it through were all men. 3 police officers were slightly injured. Melilla and Ceuta, a second Spanish enclave also on Africa's Mediterranean coast, are popular crossing points for African migrants seeking to enter Europe illegally. Let us know what you think about Africa 54. Join the discussion on Facebook. The address is Africa 54. We're also streaming our broadcast live on Facebook. Please watch and share our show with your friends. Also, check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Coming up, excitement is building among sports fans in the U.S., even as Tokyo officials hint at the possibility of canceling the Olympic Games due to the COVID virus. We'll be right back. The United States has averaged more than 26,000 new COVID-19 cases per day over the past week, more than double the number it was a month ago, with the more contagious Delta variant making up for over 80% of the cases. VOA White House correspondent Patsy Widakuswara looks at the Biden administration strategy for dealing with the surge as misinformation continues to drive anti-vaccination sentiments in certain groups.
COVID-19 restrictions on bars and nightclubs in some U.S. cities have been fully lifted, but the fast-spreading Delta variant has led to a surge in cases and hospitalizations, particularly in areas with high vaccine hesitancy rates. The Biden administration calls it a pandemic of the unvaccinated.
Unvaccinated people are at risk, and communities that are fully vaccinated are generally faring well.
Despite the administration's efforts to push the free and readily available vaccines, government data shows only 49% of Americans are fully vaccinated. A recent Axios Ipsos poll shows 30% of American adults surveyed said they haven't gotten the vaccine, and half within that group say they won't get it no matter what.
There's a wide range of reasons given for not wanting to get the vaccine. And they, generally speaking, come down to some sort of sense of safety of the vaccine itself, along with not thinking that the coronavirus is that serious or that dangerous.
The data shows that anti-vaccine individuals primarily get their news from alternative media sources, which often spread health misinformation. Last week, U.S. Surgeon General Vivek Murthy warned of its dangers.
Misinformation has led people to resist wearing masks in high-risk settings. It's led them to turn down proven treatments and to choose not to get vaccinated.
A recent Washington Post ABC News poll showed 86% of Democrats have received at least one shot, compared with 45% of Republicans. Now the Republican Party leadership is urging supporters to get vaccinated.
I want to encourage everybody to do that and to ignore all of these other voices that are giving demonstrably bad advice.
This marks a notable shift after months of Republican resistance against the Biden administration's pandemic efforts. Responding to VOA's question, Biden said he welcomes the shift.
I don't know how many of them believed what they were saying. They may have really believed it, the things they've been saying. But I think once the realization occurred that this virus was only killing primarily those people who had not been vaccinated, I think it was sort of, as we Catholics say, a bit of an epiphany for them.
Meanwhile, at least 2 vaccinated White House staff have tested positive for COVID-19 after interacting with more than 50 Texas state representatives who visited the nation's capital last week. Patsy Widakuswara, VOA News.
Brianna Maria, founder of the We Speak model agency, believes models should reflect the world, and her agency finds and promotes a unique and diverse group of people. VOA's Karina Bafrajan has our report.
Over the past few decades, modeling has expanded to include people of different ages, races, and sizes. But for Brianna Maria, founder of We Speak model agency, agencies still do not embrace enough diversity. So in 2012, she opened her own agency despite some skepticism.
When I started We Speak, I remember a very distinct meeting where I had feedback from a peer, and she was like, yeah, that's not going to work. Your board is too all over the place. There's already plus size agencies, like that's already a thing. And I kept doing what I was doing, and I was like, this isn't a plus size agency. This is where we all come together and celebrate each other.
Today, she works with over 130 models of different builds, heights, genders, and races. There are models with Down syndrome and with skin conditions, and they have all found their way to magazine covers, ads, and catwalks, making a statement about equality and body positivity. Washington, D.C.-based model Danielle Sauter says it's a good time to build diversity in the fashion industry.
Having more diverse models of all heights, of all sizes, of all shapes, of all genders, of all races is, it's really starting to flourish more than it has ever been.
Sauter says social networks have helped recruiters find new and diverse models for ad campaigns. She credits her Instagram blog for helping to launch her career in 2014 when she joined a Washington, D.C. modeling agency. But some more conventional models say they are now being criticized and accused of promoting unrealistic expectations. Vlada Roslikova is one of the most popular Russian models in the West.
There's a new imbalance taking place. I am the way I am, and people are now criticizing me for making others feel uncomfortable in their own bodies. So I am to blame for simply being me? It is a complex and loaded issue, and of course I'd love to have some balance.
Some say one example is the decision by popular lingerie brand Victoria's Secret to stop working with long-time models known as angels.
I don't think that they should have canceled the angels. I think that they should have made them more inclusive. I think that they should have kept the program. And, you know, when you look at, Victoria's Secret has always been very, sexy. Why can't all people be sexy? Look at Fenty, for example, Rihanna's line. They've done a fantastic job of all sizes, all genders.
Victoria's Secret models now range from actress Priyanka Chopra to professional soccer player Megan Rapinoe.
I like the tendency to take interest in the personality of the model. It's not a pretty picture anymore. Now people want to know more about the model, and it's awesome.
A changing industry for changing times. Karina Befredjin for VOA News, Washington.
Olympic officials are warning against what they say are divisive political protests at the Summer Games in Tokyo. But as VOA's Bill Gallo reports, the event may be the perfect opportunity for athlete activism.
Global Black Lives Matter protests. A Me Too movement in support of women's rights. Both sprung up in the years since the last Summer Olympics, and both may influence the Tokyo Games.
I think we have a perfect storm, if you will, for an outburst of athlete activism that is rooted in fighting for Black freedom and also for human rights in general.
In the U.S., professional basketball players have been at the forefront of anti-racism protests. Many will now compete in Tokyo. U.S. soccer star Megan Rapinoe has also been outspoken for equal pay.
And I've been told that I don't deserve any more than less because I am a woman.
Olympic protests aren't new. The most iconic was the Black Power salute by U.S. athletes Tommie Smith and John Carlos at the 1968 Games. The International Olympic Committee later introduced Rule 50, which bans player protests. The rule was loosened this year, but IOC chief Thomas Bach recently warned against what he called divisive protests, saying the podium and medal ceremonies are not meant for politics, which is ironic given that the IOC's own website praises Carlos and Smith as legends.
And they say what courage it took for them to do that. And I agree, it took a lot of courage. But they've made a new rule. Even these guidelines do not permit there to be a new John Carlos or Tommie Smith at the Tokyo Olympics.
Some conservatives in the U.S. say athletes should stick to sports, but the trend is in the other direction. The Olympics is no exception.
The Olympic Games in international sport is so entwined with politics, with all of the national symbols. It's the flags, it's the anthems, it's the emblems on the uniform, the uniforms being in those national colors.
Excitement is building over the Tokyo Olympics despite more athletes testing positive for COVID-19. While the Games are set to begin this Friday, the head of the Tokyo Organizing Committee says there is still a chance they could be cancelled due to the virus. Still, sports fans in the United States are eagerly gearing up to watch, as VOA's Maria Diallo reports.
The Olympics Games in Tokyo are back on track starting Friday, 1 year after being postponed because of the coronavirus pandemic. U.S. fans, like others around the world, are eagerly waiting to watch.
I'm most excited for track because I was in track in high school, so I'm most excited to see that, and especially the girls' race.
I love track and field. I'm looking forward to some of the newer events. I think there's skateboarding, if I'm not mistaken. and beach volleyball is always fun.
So I'm really excited that baseball is being played at the Olympics again. It's been a long time, and I'm really happy for that.
But COVID-19 continues to be a threat, and there is concern that Japan's vaccination rate is lagging.
I was hoping that the government of Japan would have been more prepared as far as vaccinations are concerned, because I know that there are a lot of other nations who are concerned about their athletes going out.
Others are not worried.
I feel like the team would be very safe and they would feel cautious themselves.
Japan has reported over 850,000 COVID-19 cases and 15,000 deaths since the start of the pandemic, according to a tally by the Johns Hopkins University's Resource Center. Tokyo's governor says the city's medical system is ready to hold safe and secure Olympics.
Quite a lot of people will be vaccinated, and many will be vaccinated during the Tokyo Games. What will change as a result is that the rate of the elderly becoming seriously ill has been greatly reduced. The number of deaths is also very low, almost zero.
But the governor also warned that the coronavirus pandemic is far from over and the Delta variant remains a risk. This has led dozens of protesters to march against hosting the Games.
Over 1,000 people have gotten infected in 3 consecutive days in Tokyo, and people are dying. If we had allocated money and human resources to anti-COVID measures, the situation wouldn't have got this bad.
The chief of the Tokyo Organizing Committee said Tuesday he has not ruled out a last-minute cancellation of the Games as more athletes test positive for the virus. The Tokyo Olympics are due to run from July 23rd to August 8. Mariama Diallo, VOA News.
And that's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. From all of us here in Washington, thanks for watching.